Yeah, and
Hey,
then I
everyone.
found out that she was a communist, and it drove me nuts because I should have realized it because the red flags were everywhere.
This is not your show. This is my
Oh,
show,
sorry.
okay? You do that on your time. Hey, everyone. This
Okay.
is Take for Life, and we are back with Chatterday season 1, episode 6. This is extreme photography, as you can tell by the uh, thumbnail I put together with Rambo showing us how he does it with his Sony. But today we're going to be talking about photography. I have two special guests here, and we're going to actually get started right away. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're going to get started right away, going right into our first section, which is guest tech specs. So we have two guests here today. You might know both of them, or you might not, but they're both photography aficionados, and I am glad to have this topic because I definitely need help. So the first one up is our Decepticon, True Star Screamer. Introduce yourself. Dave, are you going to go by True Star Screamer today or just by Dave?
Either works. I mean, you can just call me True, or you can call me Dave. Both work for me.
All right. Well, tell us why you're here. What got you interested in the topic?
First, again, thank you, Henry, for having me on. I've You guys can catch me every Thursday on the Figure Action podcast, and I am absolutely in love with figure photography. I think it really boiled down to a group called the ACBA group, the Articulated Comic Book Art Groups. I don't know how I stumbled across one day. I just saw like a really cool photo of Wolverine just stalking in the woods, and that was actually done by Boog Knights, and found out that he was part of the ACBA group. I kind of came into that, and I just totally fell in love with it. The idea of tangible photography. It's honestly just something also, I mean, just a great thing to do with the figures more than just, staring at them. It just makes you feel like I'm kind of doing part of it all because, one of the reasons I fell in love with toys was those wonderful catalogs, pictures from Sears and all that back in the day.
Yeah, I'm sure that's why you were looking at the Sears catalog back in the day.
It was, it was before adolescence kicked in. I was only 7 years old.
Sure.
But
Oh, T-Man978 says, tell Dave I was here.
I
All right.
appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
And then TM Reviews, my other compatriot. Sup, big people, big fan of your photos, hard return. Dave, you are champion.
Oh, appreciate, man. But yeah, it's just honestly what I think I really kind of fell in love with the idea of being able to take photos that almost to make initially like a bad figure look good. Um, One of the, I guess you say, another big influence for me was a guy back in the early 2000s, Remy. I don't know if you remember that. He used to somehow get his hands on figures, kind of like how we kind of we wonder about
Prime
Prime
versus
versus
Prime.
Prime reviews and things like that. Like, where does he get them from? And this guy would take photos and always do like this brilliant white background and just make everything look amazing. And that was probably the first person, I guess, to say my biggest influence of just taking photos of taking a robot and make it look good. And then, like I said, the ACBA groups came out, and then it kind of went all downhill from there.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying really is like also it's another way to interact with your collection, but I think it's another way to share your love for your collection, right? Not just
Absolutely.
so. All right, so that's True Star Screamer. We're gonna move over to Hard Return, aka Ian. So Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where we can find all your awesome photography, as well as why you're joining us today on Chatterday.
You asked me, so I said yeah. And I haven't seen you for a while, Henry. So it was mostly nice to talk to you. And I don't believe that I've ever talked to Dave, but it's nice to talk to fellow fans and especially when cons are far and few between at the moment. So and yeah, I mean, for me, I got into Transformers in about I had always been into Transformers as a kid and everything, but then, right around 2010-ish, I guess I got a I got MP01 sleep mode and MP Grimwalk, I think, and I was like, oh, these are really cool. And I got them, and I didn't like it was fun and everything, but I was like, what do I do with these other than enjoy them? So then I was like, well, I'm gonna take some pictures. I took some really shitty pictures of them, and I put them up on the on TFW at the time, and it just really became how I kind of engage with my toys. Like I display them, like I've got stuff on display and everything, but like the real fun part for me is actually taking them down, messing around with them, putting them in poses, and taking pictures of them. So that's really kind of how things started for me and how they've gone since then. So and yeah, it's been a long road of taking progressively less shitty pictures to where I am now. But it there was a lot to learn. The community. I mean, I don't go on TFW too much anymore because the boards aren't necessarily the most community focused. I guess I would say there's a lot of people who with opinions, but back then there was a lot of people that were just taking really great photos, and there was a lot of help. Like there was the super clean thread on TFW. I spent a lot of time in there.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And like I think they're still going, but like there's so many good photographers, and that just getting like seeing what they did and then trying to emulate it, and then I mean there's that line, right, like good artists copy and great artists steal, and like just the way I found to get better at photography was just trying to emulate what I was seeing other really good photographers do, and then trying to do that, and that's kind of what I've been doing. And yeah, in terms of finding my stuff, I mostly post stuff on Twitter. I'm really bad at updating my Facebook page, but Twitter, it's Ian_Reed. I'm the only idiot using his real name on Twitter.
Instagram for me.
Instagram. So, yeah, I don't even do Instagram. So, like I do, but like not really. And then otherwise, a lot of times you can find my stuff on the MMC and the Ocular Max packages. So that's
right here.
Yep, there you go. Absolutely.
I also like to note that his is above mine. Like that's how the hierarchy goes in the MMC Ocular Max.
I am very jealous of you on that, by the way.
Definitely Ian, and then a couple of dozen people, and then Pig. So
honestly, my favorite part is I've got to name a couple of them. So like that's always been always
What have you named?
Oh, Hellion was one of the ones I named. Supermax, even though it's not out yet. I got a few of the other ones.
Oh yeah, but the latest post that it's not dead. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's on like being able to shoot back and forth with some of the other Ocular Max people and kind of toss around ideas has been fun in that regard. So, but yeah, it's great, and I enjoy talking to people on Twitter. Like I said, less so on the boards. But it's cool, and I've met great people like you, Henry, and now I'm meeting you, Dave, and it's really kept me enjoying the hobby when, especially during periods where there's maybe not so much coming out or anything like that. So
it's like you said, it's a chance to really you get more out of the figure. I mean, you get from the accessories, things like as opposed to opening the box, going plug it in, cool, put it back in the box, plug it in, cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm sure, Henry, I'm sure you didn't do video stuff just to do video stuff. Like that seems like your way to engage with the toys.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I think I've told him many times, I just kind of stumbled into doing reviews, and just because I had a specific figure that people wanted comparisons on, so I did, and then I just kept going from there. And like you said, it's kind of an evolving thing, right? Where you realize you're kind of shitty. Like I had like a shitty background, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go with a black background. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of shitty. Let me go to a white background. I was like, oh, this still looks kind of shitty. Maybe it's not my background. Maybe it's my tools. Maybe it's my lighting. And then, even the evolution to doing live streams only now, like that, it's a whole different thing. But again, I think it's all about trying to maximize what you're getting out of it as well as what you're putting out there. So, all right. So I'll have to update Ian your link in the description. I put your Instagram as well as Dave's Instagram, but we'll go ahead and get the update. I'll throw on your Twitter as well. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So as usual, if you guys have been here before, we have a number of different segments. That's how this works. So with guest tech specs in the books, we're going to move to our first interactive segment, and this is a new one called the Showcase. So we've been doing a lot of different types of content here on Chatterday. Some have just been discussions. Some have been like topics on things that are non-collecting, like comics and manga and stuff like that. We did one on collection displays. So one of the things I want to do when I bring on people who are, or we're talking about like a skill topic or something that's like photography or videography, stop motion, or again, displays or something like that, I want to be able to show that the people we have on can showcase where they're coming from, what they do, just a little bit to give you a little bit of background on some of their expertise. So starting out first, we're going to go through True Star Screamers Dave's. I picked out some of these from their Instagram accounts because I think they really spoke to me in one way or another. Like this one in particular, I really love that it kind of fits with the Showcase kind of movie theme, so that's kind of why. But I love the incorporation of like the background. So as we go through these, if you guys have ever watched First We Feast with Sean Evans, he always goes, explain that Graham. We're going to go through these photos. I want you to tell me a little bit about this photo. Anything in particular that you think is unique about this or proud about this photo, okay? So, Dave, tell me a little bit about this mummy photo.
Well, that's the new NECA mummy from the Boris Karloff figure from their movie line. And I would put this is like one of the most simplistic figures, and I absolutely adore it. A lot of on there, like tuck the background, that's actually a gradient poster board that you can get at Walgreens. The stone platform that he's sitting on and the boulders behind them, I actually crafted all that myself. Well,
really?
most of it myself. This is actually one of my favorite things. Yeah. And actually my daughter helps me make those, which is actually one of my favorite things of pulling her into the hobby. Actually, she helps me dry brush those. And I'm not sure what other pictures you have in there, but when you see a lot of stuff with those castle backgrounds and stuff, those are all stuff that I've made.
What material is that made out of?
Styrofoam.
Oh, really?
You want me to grab? I can grab one real quick if you want to see one.
All right. Well, do that while we go to your next photo as well.
Before that, I just want to say the shadow across his face and the way that goes into the mouth and then across the body, like that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's actually using an LED. That's just a single LED lamp, and I just have it shining down at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah,
so
it's great. It shows off the texture of the wraps, and it also I just love the way that it bleeds into the mouth there.
This is as you talk about. There's the photos I posted, and the ones that didn't, and this was just how it came out. The bandages just wedged in there, so I was trying to give like the whole implied wind to it, and it just I was very satisfied with this one.
All right, so go get some of that. A lot of folks saying that they love this. Sweet Subarashi, love this pick. Call Me BB says the lighting. So yeah, it's awesome. So I love that one. Struck out to me definitely. The next one, I always love these kinds of photos with the shallow depth of field, and then you have like whether it's the pointing finger from that Uncle Sam kind of I want you thing. I love that kind of direct. So that's why I picked out this Deadpool one from Dave. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this one, Dave.
Oh, that's using a 50mm lens. Or they call it the Nifty 50. And I was just really just focusing when you have a 50mm lens. When you have the you set the aperture to like level f4, you have to focus on one part, and then everything else you get that depth of field to it. So in that one, it was just I literally focused it on his one eye, and so that's why I got the blur around everything else. Using what they call, the basic white background, which you heard me talk about Remy before. He had that down to a science. I was just trying to get that glow going on. I try to use as little. The only thing I usually use Photoshop for is just cropping. So everything else is just the light of it all.
Okay.
And that's the Sentinel Deadpool, which was pretty freaking cool. Okay. So you want to talk about those backgrounds?
Oh yeah, hold on.
Castle Frankenstein.
Let's take a quick detour and
Oh.
let me maximize you for a second.
This is probably my crowning. This is probably my most ambitious one, but this is all just made from styrofoam.
Wow, that's amazing.
Glue it, do a base of Mod Podge and black paint for there, and then top coat, then dry brush. Etch it all in there. I've got that. This is actually my first one I ever did, this platform. And again, my daughter helped me out with that one. And this was the first thing I ever built, and I'm still one of my proudest ones.
I can't believe it. If the first one I would look like a box, essentially a gray box, I think.
And this was a temple ruins that I did. So yeah, they're all pretty much right now just stoneworks. I want to try to get more to buildings and things like that, but right now I think this has really been a very good wheelhouse for me.
Very nice.
I'm not exactly a diostructure guy just yet, because they do some amazing things, but I'm pretty proud of this stuff.
Yeah. So one of the topics that we have in the Chatterday Discord channel, the private channel that we have for people who want to join, is one that's going to be about customization. So I'll definitely will hit you back up, see if you want to join for that one.
Cool. Okay.
When we talk about customization. All right, so let's go to the next one. Oh, love this one because Miles Morales. I think, who doesn't like Miles Morales, first of all? Yeah. But I love the lighting coming from underneath on this one. So yeah, why don't you tell us about this one?
Yeah, that was okay. That I actually won that diorama in a contest. I didn't make that one, but what I actually used was I was at 5 Below, and they had those strips of LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one strip above him and one strip below him to get that light effect from coming underneath. That is fake moss. I picked that up at Michael's. I would literally just take clear glue, run it between the cracks, and then put the moss in there. But yeah, that's the Sentinel Miles, and that was the last photo I took before I moved from when I lost my job. Yes, that is. I got him right over there. That was my figure of the year last year.
Very nice.
I tossed the Mafex soft jacket on him just because I felt it was nicer.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, both of them were really nice. It was hard to determine which one is the one you should get.
Yeah, I kind of mashed the two of them together and called it a day, but it's fantastic. And the like you do the diorama stuff, and that's the stuff I'm always extremely jealous and impressed by, because I just don't have the real setup to do it, and I'm not artistic when it comes to that stuff at all. So it's fantastic.
The stone walls, that was my first time building it, and literally you just don't know until you try. That's all I can say.
I got a pretty good idea that I can't do it.
All right, this is the other one I like, just because, again, back to the cinematic view of it. And I took this off your Instagram, but I didn't know if those bars were supposed to be there in terms of making it look more, at the movie theater with the bars, or if that was just cropping from Instagram. I had no idea if that was intentional or not.
I think that was,
either way, it looks phenomenal.
That was the cropping from Instagram.
Oh, okay.
But, that's the other neck. That was the NECA Frankenstein, and that is, again, if you haven't handled those, there's just love in those. Those are actually the Tamashii walls. You can buy those, and they're plain white, and I just put my daughter. That was actually my first dry brushing projects. My daughter, we just dry brushed black over them to bring out the brick a little more, and that's I just wanted to see how that thing looked in black and white, because NECA did that as either a color or a black and white figure. So I bought the color ones and just put the black and white filter on it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. Awesome. And I think this is the last one I have from you, just because I'm a big King of Fighters fan. So
Those were the Zeta walls behind it. They give that's as close to my science fiction diorama as I got. I use those for a few of my shots, and that was again the same thing where I put the LEDs below them and above them to try to get that shadowing on there. And
yeah, for me, the thing that stuck out is like that the mix of the colors. So like you have a really nice dichotomy broken up just by them facing off against each other, but then you have like the red from underneath, but then the blue effect in his hand, and then you have kind of the black and then the red effect for Kyo. So I thought it was just really interesting.
That's the cool thing on there, because with those LED strips, I know you picked a couple of them. There's another. I'm not. There's one of my other shots that I did where I took advantage of those LED strips. I either have one of the Batman Who Laughs and one of Leonardo, where I'm doing those. I have the lights above and lights below. One in a green light, one in a red light, to kind of give that, as you said, that of color. And those, again, 5 below, really cheap, but you do need to have a power bank to power them because they run off a USB. And it's a very cheap way of doing, a very inexpensive way of doing dynamic lighting, and it's soft lighting too, which is important.
Oh, okay, well, we'll have to get into that when we get to our tips and tricks section.
All
right, so that's it. I only pulled 6 shots from you, and now we did 6 shots from Ian. So Ian, you're up next. You're gonna have to explain these grams. So for you first,
if they're in,
just because he's one of my favorites, showing off your product photography first of all.
Yeah, this is well, I forget his name, but the one from the Decepticon Justice Division, Helix or Moors, or one of
Helix, yeah.
I always get the names confused when it comes to what we're supposed to call them, but yeah, no. Soon as I got it in hand, the fact that he had the 2 sets of arms, I just like, having him do the hand punching the other hand, and then the come at me, bro, like being able to do both of those on the same figure was I was like, okay, can't really pass that up. And then I just really like the colors on them as well. And on this one I used, I think, a 35 millimeter. I'm not sure if we want to get too into the weeds on the technical stuff now, or if we're going to do that in the tips or tricks, but like part of it really is just choosing the right lens for the right shot when it comes to getting the emotion you want. Like, you can see how big his hand that's up close is compared to the one that's clenched in the background, and that's due to the fact that it's a wider lens, so the fall off in the geometry just makes it look smaller in the background, but it just emphasizes that front hand more.
And so one of the questions I have to ask, just because everyone tends to do it, especially with Transformers promo figures, is what is with the hip thrust? Like, why the?
So I've taken shit for that. Not always directly.
Oh, it's definitely not just you.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, it just goes back to, like, even like if you look at some of the old anime stuff and everything like that, it's putting creating the angle where it's like up like this, and it first of all looks just more dynamic, and then second of all it makes them look bigger in a lot of cases, especially if you're shooting from a down angle, and then it just creates a little bit of motion or energy in the figure, where instead of just having them like fucking straight up and down like that, like that's if there's one thing I'll say, like, just when you're taking the when you're posing them, you try and create like a curve or some sort of motion where you can feel like them resting on their feet or something, rather than just like a stock straight up and down. Like you saw it in all of Dave's photos, like there's motion, there's energy. I'm not always doing interactive poses like he is, but like I still, even the stock up and down one, I still want to have them a little bit, have some sort of motion trying to convey.
Yeah, so T-Man also says he's doing it to illustrate some dynamic poses, but also articulation, right? So
showing off the articulation when they have it is huge. Exactly. Especially when you only get a chance to do like a couple photos that are going to be for a product or whatever, like you got to show the articulation as much as possible, and sometimes you just got to exaggerate it a little.
Yeah. Well, I also think, like, as you were saying before, like, when you're trying to, especially when you're trying to get robots to be more believable as alive, humans don't just stand perfectly straight. As you said, they shift weights. They usually stand on one weight on one leg or the other more than the other. So it makes them feel more organic, I guess,
Yeah.
to not be just perfectly straight up and down. So. All right, well, that was a good one. My next one here, I just love this one. You said you don't do a lot of like
I
scenery
don't.
stuff.
So this I bought at an IKEA. Like that's from like an IKEA. Like there's dollhouse stuff. There was like a little pack of it, and I was like, I bought it. Didn't fit most of my figures, and then I had an alien figure that the tail had broken off, and I'm like, fuck it. It made me laugh. And I don't have much beyond that here. Like I was just like, might as well do it.
Hey, Xenomorph, I knew you were going to be here with that $5 donation. That's why I threw this in here. I did that really quick in the background. No, I just happenstance. So yeah, IKEA. I didn't even know they made a little dollhouse.
They sold like this set, and I think like they've put a new one up since, but they don't do much.
Interesting. I didn't know Xenomorphs like cookies, chocolate chip cookies. All right,
gotta help grow.
This one I just love just because that's one thing that I can never do just because I guess I think this is one of the areas where you do kind of need the tool, like macro photography like this. If you don't have the tools to do it or the lens that lets you do it, it just doesn't look right. And then also that's the only way to show this kind of immense detail in a figure like this, right?
Yeah, that's the Hot Toys 66 Batman. It's my favorite Batman. Like I know there've been a lot of great movies since and everything like that, but I just remember watching reruns of the Adam West show when I was a kid and loving it. And there's something just really it's basically a homemade costume. Like the way this figure looks, like I think they knocked it. This is one of their older figures too, and I think they just knocked it out of the park in terms of the sculpt and everything and the paint. And I think this is either with 100mm or 50mm, but yeah, just like Dave was saying earlier, shadow depth of field helps sell the idea that this might actually just be like like a picture of Adam West rather than a toy or something like that. That's kind of what I was going for, is portrait photography. And you just got to try and there's, when you're dealing, the smaller you get, the harder it is to do that. So with these 1/6 ones, it gets a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, I mean, Hot Toys does some amazing stuff, so it makes things like this. Like, I think you could easily pass this off as a real photo of Adam West to like anybody on the street. I bet you 50% of people at least would be like, "Oh man, Adam West is great," and be like, "This is a toy." They'll be like, "No fucking way."
Adam West is great, so they'd be right.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. In all ways, shapes, or form. Family Guy as well. So
yes.
All right, I wanted to throw this one out just because when I saw this one, I was like, "This is the kind of product photography like you would think could easily be the official masterpiece one." Just looking at it on the box, it's set up really well. This lit very well. It just looked awesome, and I know this is one of your older ones, so I wanted to display this one too.
It is. I think that's Big Spring, maybe. I don't. It's
Big Spring.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Big Spring. And yeah, it was fun to get that figure and mess around with it, and then putting him with the the rest of the crew. I will say that I like the way that the black photography looks and everything like that, and I like doing a reflective floor up until I get the photo into Lightroom, and then I look and I'm like, fucking dust on the floor and I'm just like, so I'll do it every now and again when I kind of want to, but like just the infinite black stuff is such a it's such work to kind of to do, just because dust becomes such an issue. But
man, I love these shows because you guys, regardless of the topic, people talk about something, and it's always something that we're going to talk about later in the show. So I love it. Love it. All right. Was that the last one for you? Oh, this is just one I wanted to show just because one is Star Wars, and this is the way, obviously, but also wanted to show off, what you could do with your display. Like, even a lot of people, when we talked about display stuff, they were like, "Oh, it needs to be, well lit. That's why I have LEDs." But you can do things, and if you set it up well, even without those constant overhead lighting, you could still shoot a really good picture of your display.
Yeah, these are actually unofficial Star Wars toys. This is a guy online called Hasno. It's actually Has No Talent. So it's, and he makes these. He's been doing like custom or low run toys for a long time. And when Mandalorian hit, he started putting out ones based on Mandalorian. And at the time, there was nothing coming out from any of the other companies. That like Hasbro, I think Hasbro was like a year behind on putting out like anything beyond the initial like 3 toys. So he sells them on Instagram. That's actually what I use Instagram for. Not actually posting my own shit, but like buying this, like toys like this and keyboards is basically what I use Instagram for. And yeah, he does these really great 5-point of articulation custom Mandalorian and Star Wars figures, and he's done a ton since. So that display is now much more populated with stuff.
No, we had a question. Doesn't from Dare 2727, but doesn't the white background help with lighting? Definitely, right?
Yeah, it absolutely can. Like there's a reason why I got those shelves in white, and it's against the white background. But this is actually in my living room. These are IKEA shelves that are wall mounted. They don't even make them anymore. They're for DVDs. You can see a row of Blu-rays below those that are long since gone. That because I don't have physical discs anymore because they just take up too much room, which is room for toys instead of Blu-rays. But like these are just tall cabinets that are wall mounted, and basically you can put glass shelves in there, and being able to kind of adjust the height and everything so that they fit these and they look nice. That I don't know. I just really enjoy having the adjustability on there.
Awesome. All right. So I think that was the last. Oh no, one last one. Baxter
Darn it. All right. So this is Super 7's Baxter Stockman. The thing in the background is actually a thing from Toy Hacks. It's one of their background things that I have, and all the rocks are absolutely real rocks because I have absolutely no artistic talent when it comes to sculpting anything. So those are picked off the ground as I've walked around the city. Like that's just the real rocks that I just found on the ground. And,
hey, that's municipal property, bro.
Hey, come at me.
Yeah, I like this one just because this was one of the few ones that you had stuff like this, like props and.
The only reason I did it is because of the Technodrome in the background. I was like, I can use this with Baxter, and I was like, all right, well, fuck it. But most of the setup I see a lot of people using now is a television that they use in the background, and then a plane in front of it. And I mean, one of these days, maybe I'll graduate to using something like that. But this was my bastardized version of it, like using the toy stage from Toy Hacks and then putting the stuff in front of it.
Yeah, definitely nice option. All right, so yeah, that should be it for that segment. Coming back to a favorite here, this or that. This is probably my favorite segment that we always do. This time, I'm not a photography expert, far from it. That's why I'm glad we're having this topic. It's an opportunity for me to learn a lot. So I only have a couple of these, but I think they're ones that have been in debate and that we've already kind of touched on a couple times already in this, but I think wider spread in the community and photography at large. I think there are questions that must be answered and debates that must be sided on. All right. So if you guys don't know this or that, this is also going to be in the YouTube stream. I'm going to go post the option there. You can vote and let us know which side you fall on. And again, this is this or that. There's no fence sitting. You got to pick one or the other and defend your selection. Okay.
You can go with this. You can go with that. You can go with this because this is where it's at. Sorry.
All right, so the first one is white background versus, as you might have guessed, black background. So it's kind of funny you're talking about the pain in the butt about the black background. We've already talked about what some of the benefits are of white backgrounds. I've done both in my video reviews. I currently have stuck with white for quite a long time. So I'm going to put this in the chat. Give me a second, and then you'll be able to vote as well. But while they're voting, Ian, why don't you kick us off and let us know what is your preference and why?
Honestly, if I have to choose one or the other, I'm always going to go with a light background, just because it's less work. I don't like the honestly, it comes down to like I have to think about it less. If I just want to grab a toy and put it in front of something, it's so much easier to do in front of a light background. But I think the infinite black looks the best. It's just too much work.
All right, so we got some people in here. Frankly Lawless says black, and then followed right by the Rusty Mechanic, who says white all day. Sean McCrum says white. Just get a lint roller though. Work smarter, not harder. All right, so we're gonna keep going. Well, let's go over to you, Dave. What do you think, black or white?
I actually prefer the black background.
I knew it.
Well, if some of my best photos come with a black background. Now, if you're doing with the white with the reflective base, I totally understand the pain on that one because it shows the dust, shows the scratches. Absolutely. The thing is, with the white background, if my lighting is not just right, I'm getting shadows all behind my pictures. With the black background, even if the light's coming from an angle, it's absorbing the shadow, and the figure is still being highlighted, even if I'm just doing like a spotlight picture on that. So that's actually why I prefer the black background. It's actually a little easier for me for the lighting to not have to deal with the shadows bouncing off of it.
So we're getting a lot of back and forth on here. One question that we get, and I think it's not just with white though. So Robot Show Tunes asks, what if the subject is predominantly white? How do you prevent that from being swallowed by the background? But I think the question is still true with a predominantly black figure in a black background. So how do you guys work that? We'll take it one at a time. Dave, why don't you go first?
Again, it's all about the lighting angles on there. If you said underside lighting, side lighting from there, you can still get the figure to highlight, even if it's a dark figure. Again, I know you're not showcasing on my Instagram. I got a great picture of the Baroness and a custom painted bike I did. Great use of a dark figure with a black background. It's one of my favorites on that.
All right, Ian, what about you? What are some tips on similar colored figures on similar colored backgrounds?
So, I mean, realistically, you handle them both slightly differently, but it's the same idea. If you're going to have a really light figure on a white background and you want to do true infinite white, basically you're going to light the figure as you kind of normally would, but then you're going to need to put one or two really high, really bright lights behind the figure, hitting the background to wash it out completely. So then you're going to get your normal lighting on the figure, you're going to wash out the background, and then your figure is going to still look good without being washed out completely. And that's how, in general, I've done the infinite white. For black, it's a little bit different. Like as long as you're not bouncing the lights directly against the background, which you don't want to do, you can basically light the figure as normal, and as long as you've got enough fall off, then you'll be fine in terms of an infinite black, even if it's a dark figure.
See, I wish I'd known this. So I've known Ian for a few years now. I don't know which TFCon it was, but years ago. And I think it was during the period where I was trying to transition from my black background to my white background. And I was like, I don't know how to light either of these motherfuckers. Like, whatever I do, I felt like I was doing it wrong. But, even just these tips. So, how you light it is different based on what color background you're using and everything like that. So I appreciate that. That in and of itself, I was looking over at my display and being like, oh, maybe I should change my lighting to be a little bit more in the back instead, because most of my lights are facing forward with one overhead. So anyway, we'll get to that in the tips and tricks, I'm sure. But for me personally, as you guys know, I've gone to white. I think it was just out of laziness, as Ian said. For me, I just need to make things as easy as possible. I love the black, and I actually started it because I thought figures looked a little bit better, but it was hard to maintain. And I just found that um, I wanted to mimic more of the quote unquote standard that a lot of reviewers have with the Infinite White. And then even my background isn't white. I was trying to mimic somebody else's. It was like another person who did photography. He had like a translucent white, and then he had like a reflective mirror underneath it for the ground. So
Yeah.
it wasn't purely reflective, but you could still. So I tried to mimic that, and I failed miserably at that. So I just left it as is. So I'm going white. We got 2 whites and 1 black sheep with True Star Screamer.
Story of my life.
Like I said, I still think that if you absolutely want it to look the most premium that you could possibly do, Infinite Black is the way to go. It's just it's just so much work.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm ending the poll here, and drum roll, please. The winner with 56% of the votes is white background. So Dave, as usually, part of the losing group. It's okay though. We still
Just
love
trying
you.
to keep the. No, I'm not going to even say that one. Not even. I'll get punched for that joke.
All right, so the next one, I only did 2 this time. This one's going to be a little bit more interesting, and again, we kind of talked about this already. This one is out of the camera, no post processing versus post processing. So again, you can only choose one.
Sure.
If you, as a photographer, are you in the camp that is pure raw footage, unedited, out of the camera? You whatever you do with the lighting is inside. Adjustments are inside the photo itself, as opposed to post processing with Photoshop and so forth. What is your take? Let me go ahead and put that poll up. While Ian, why don't you go first this time? Let us know where you fall on this.
So I'm going to preface this by saying they're both equally valid. But for me and what I do, I have I shoot in RAW, which means I'm post-processing anyway. So the work I'm doing is going to be in Lightroom, and for the most part it stays in Lightroom, so it's just adjusting the digital RAW file. But I have no problem going in. Like I've got a Wacom, like my main display is a Wacom Cintiq. So like I use it for getting rid of dust. I get rid of blemishes. I go in and I do all that stuff anyway. So that's what I mostly use it for. I'm not doing things like adding like glowing eyes and shit like that. But I do post process absolutely 100% of the time. If what I was getting out of the camera was the stuff I was putting up, it would be the most dull, bland thing, because raw files, I'm not sure if you dealt with raw files before, but raw is basically what is hitting the sensor. Like when you take a photo and it's a JPEG, the camera is already doing post processing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're even straight out of the camera, it's post processed, but it's inside the camera. Like that's what your Canon Digic sensor is doing, that and applying a certain amount of variables to it, and that's why you get the JPEG out of it. And if you ever use a Samsung phone or an iPhone, there's post processing being done on that before you even see the photo. So like, there's always going to be some processing on it. But with RAW, it looks like garbage out of the camera, basically. So you're going in, you're making some adjustments and everything like that. So I'm firmly in the post-processing camp. Not to, like I said, I'm not adding glowing eyes or electric beams and stuff like that. Like that's all fine. I'm just not what I do. But I'm absolutely going in and sharpening and making adjustments to the exposure and everything like that after the fact.
All right. What about you, Dave?
Actually, there's no black sheep on this one. You need to have post editing. I mean, whether it be even if just cropping, slight adjustment, a slight light adjustment, you got to do it. As much as I would love to say, I've shot some photos that are near perfect, as far as the lighting and the angling, but I still have to. But then I'm like, crud, I got a wire in the far corner on there, so it's going to get cropped out, or even my posing might be off. But I love like the torso of something, so I'll knock that out, type of thing. So you need to have it.
Even some things are, and some things just aren't possible in camera. Like going back to your Deadpool shot, like you did the shallow depth of field and the eye in focus and everything like that. But if you wanted to get from the tip of the gun to the eye in focus and still have that exaggerated foreground, you're going to have to do focus stacking to
Right.
get that. And so like that's going to be post process. And focus stacking is so you take anywhere between 3 and 20 or however many photos at different focal lengths and basically stitch them together inside of Photoshop so that something like this, when I'm shooting a gun right here, you know, this is going to be out of focus if this is in focus. But you take, you know, 10 photos down the line of in focus stuff, and then you use Photoshop to stitch them together so that you can basically get everything from one side and to where you want to end in focus.
Yeah, and
I've never done that.
Isn't that some of the post processing that a lot of phones do now, like portrait mode and stuff like that? Don't they take multiple photos? And even like HDR, it's not essentially.
If you look at watch photography, like if you like think of a watch and the face is, you know, like it's all one plane. Even that stuff has focus stacking. Like if you get into the higher end kind of product photography stuff, like especially macro stuff, to get the macro and have everything in focus, they're stacking together like 30, 40 photos to get.
Gosh,
damn.
The more you know. Yeah. Lilito Prime, I know you've been to these before. I don't know, and I just explained it. You can't say equally awesome. What? It's not called this and that. It's called this or that. Come on. And then he said he went post. All right.
Sorry, that made me laugh.
Evening.
Right. Hey, Mike Rogers, how's it going? He was he's one of the first 2 guests, including Niles French, who I don't think Niles has volunteered for anything since then. I don't know where that guy is, so I'm gonna have to get on him. But
excellent taste
me
in whiskey too.
Being a noob, I trust in Apple more than I trust in myself. And then when I bring it in, my lighting is always pretty atrocious. I always have to up the exposure globally and then through the lower side and the higher side or midtones, whatever it is, just to get it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, I think it goes to a larger question that a lot of people have been saying, and I was debating whether I wanted to do that as a this or that. But do you think like phones and the ease and processing power of phones has hurt or helped photography as a whole? And I think that's probably a whole other topic. We can probably go on forever with that. But it was an interesting idea or topic that I was thinking about posting. But we're going to skip that one because I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this Chatterday, which is, oh no, I have a remnant here. So ignore that. It's tools, tips, and tricks. We did this once before at our display, collection display topic. I think that was episode 2 or 3. So this is just an opportunity where we can kind of talk about tools, tips, and tricks. We've already had a bunch of great stuff coming from Ian and Dave, and I just want to catalog some of it. Ian was nice enough to just throw some stuff together that he thought would be really nice in terms of lighting, because that's what I always asked him for help on. So I wanted to go through that and let Ian kind of talk about the different types of lighting. So let's get started with that. So overhead, we're going to go through like 6 photos, I think you said.
Yeah, this is actually with no lights. I might have labeled them wrong, but this like I just got Skull Cruncher, whatever his name is today. This guy, I saw you did a review, Henry. It was really good. And so I just got him today, and I was taking photo, and I remember that you said you wanted to talk about lighting. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a couple of photos just to kind of explain the lighting setup. So like this is what he looks like in the box with no lights on. And then,
all right. Let me know when you want to go.
Yeah, the next one's fine. So that's what it looks like with just the overhead softbox turned on. So you can see that basically it's got downward facing shadows. That's the pool of shadows underneath him. It's lit up the top of the chest and everything like that. And you can see it now instead of the previous photo. And then the next one, this is basically, he's facing, I don't know how to say this. He's facing in one direction, and this is a light now coming in from the other direction to catch some of the stuff on the other side of him. And then you can see when I'm positioning lights, I'm always trying to find, little details and edges to catch. So like if you look at his chest and his crotch and everything like that, you can see it's caught a couple of the lines like on there. So I try and catch a couple of those things just to bring out those details a little bit more. And then I guess we can go to the next one.
Robot Show Tunes asks, is this 90-degree lighting?
It's not 90 degree, but it's 90 degree, I guess, from where, like, he's facing in this direction and the light's coming in from this direction, but it's not 90 degree from where the figure is. It's just on an off angle. And like, I'll move this around, like I was saying, just to kind of catch the best light that I can with it.
All right. Sorry, let's go to the next one.
Yep. And then this is basically a directional light. So this is from the other side, and I'm just blasting this to get a really nice highlight on the other side of it. And that's all that is.
So what is the difference between off angle and directional?
So the off angle is still a diffused softbox light. This is using actual directional things. So you can see, if you go back to the other photo for a second, you can see it's caught the background and everything with it here. If you go to the directional one, the next one, it's not really catching any of the background with it. This is only coming in at basically the angle. Yeah, exactly.
It's
so this
right
is,
here.
Yeah.
The other one was kind of bathing the whole figure. This is going just directly across the figure.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then the last one, I think, is basically the fill light. And this is basically just to fill out the front of it and catch some of the details there. And so this is basically head on the figure just to kind of catch the front of it and kind of fill out that. And this is also a diffuse box. So that's kind of the light, and I'll change that up depending on what I'm taking a photo of. But like those are kind of the number of lights I'm using. And if you go to the last one, then that's what they look like when they're all on at the same time.
Oh.
So that's basically how you kind of catch all of those different things. If you go through all of them, you can see like the directional light is the hard light on his crotch. The fill light is the other side of his crotch. The soft overbox is what's catching the top of his chest. If you look at the way his visor is lit up, it's in 3 sections basically, but as a total, it all lights up everything. So like that's basically how I light a photo. And it's like I said, it's different per figure and what I'm trying to do with it. Like that's how I get the light that I'm looking for.
The thing I like about that, especially if you notice the last picture on their pic, there's almost no shadow.
Yeah. And that wouldn't be possible with just one light, right?
That's the art. That honestly is the art of it all. And that's what I said. Before we started the show, the first thing I said to Ian was, my God, I love your lighting.
Thank you.
And this is a beautiful example of what this man's doing. So, sorry, I gotta.
Thank you. But yeah, this has been me slowly adding over the course of years. Like I started off with, a piece of paper taped to a wall and like 2 lights on each side that were different color temperatures and, just pointing at it, and they didn't look great. Like I said, shitty photos to start off with, but then slowly building up different lights, and then, going and splurging and getting some LED, like they're like LED panels that you can get on Amazon for like $100 or $110, and like splurging on 3 of those because I can position them in the small space that I have to work with, and then having a boom arm with a softbox down and everything like that. So like slowly adding to my toolkit as I've kind of gone along with the hobby.
So a quick question here from Memo. He says, who's also been on the show. Thanks, Memo. So how many lights and how should a YouTuber reviewer place them? So you said that obviously it depends on what you're doing,
Yeah.
but I guess for a reviewer like myself who does a very standard layout, it's always going to be kind of front facing. How would you best light it? Like,
I
would you
mean, it's
do?
going to depend on the situation you're in, like the actual room you're in the space you're in. But like, if I was lighting it, I would probably have, like you said, you have a box up top that's lighting it. Like, I think your light in your videos looks great, Henry. Like, it's basically like you're going to want to it depend on what the look you're going for is. Like, who TJ Kuma, like he's got a very distinctive look in his lighting setups for his reviews, right? That's very different than yours. Like, that's not right or wrong, it's just different. And then if you look at someone like Ben, like Pia, like he's doing something completely different as well. He's got a box that has LED strips on the inside of it and everything like that. But like it's gonna just basically come down to what the look you're going for is. But I would say like 3 lights is probably a good way to go, just because you can get an overhead one and then one on each side and then move them around depending on what you're kind of going for. Like that, a 3 light setup would be kind of the minimum that I would say is a good way to go.
As usual, I'm coming in just at the minimum. That's exactly how.
You got to use the Picard method, man. They're all 4 lights.
Yeah, four is if you want to also add like that key light in, or add like
backlighting.
And then if you want to, like if you're going to get on camera yourself, you're going to need one of those ring lights, Henry, so that you can get the circles in your eyes and
the
pretty.
model look, the TikToker view. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for those tips here. I am going to skip over some of them because I think we talked about a lot of them, but maybe later I'll go ahead and collate some of these. But I wanted to go through and actually look at this photo from my latest thumbnail. So this was I just shoot with my iPhone camera. I used to shoot with a DSLR back in the day, and it just became like too cumbersome for me. And it just became so much easier. And obviously with YouTube, I do YouTube Live, so I use my iPhone for that. But this was literally just one shot I took, and I wanted to, without any additional post-processing where I lightened it up for my actual thumbnail and everything like that. But I wanted to get your guys' opinions on what you think I've done right, wrong, and what I could do to kind of improve this lighting as an example for other folks that might look at this and be like, oh, this looks a little flat, or it could be a little bit done more dynamically. Or one of the things that I struggle with a lot is posing. And I feel like I do the same, like 4 poses. Like if he has a gun, I'm putting him up like this. If he has a sword, he's just holding it, like that kind of thing. And be brutally honest, I'm okay with it. I know this is not a strong point for me, but I would love to hear how you might have taken it differently. And it's kind of funny because you actually did that same character, and it's a very different style, right? So it might, maybe if I had gone with that, done some of that hip thrust, which made him look maybe more heroic than hunched over or something like that. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I'm going to let you guys kind of dissect.
Well, I was going to say with the posing on there, I actually got to reference something that T-Man said a while ago when he was talking about the hip thrust. Like, I would have probably put a little more torso twist on there just to cut. I'm covered over by T-Man. I'm being short. Like, I would have put a little more twist on the waist, just to kind of literally show what dynamic, any of the dynamic posing he can do. The lighting's actually is good on there. I think the only other thing aside from the posing would just be the cropping, to be frank, just to kind of. Do you know the rule of 3s?
Yeah. So this is before I actually cropped it to my thumbnail.
Okay, just saying. But aside from that, the lighting actually is really good because, especially the white background, the biggest thing that always drives me nuts with the white is shadow, and I'm almost seeing no shadow except for maybe a little from the box. So that's the lack of shadow is actually a very positive thing on the lighting.
Yeah, I agree. Like, honestly, Henry, I think you're selling yourself a bit short. I think it's a really nice photo. In terms of eliminating the shadows that Dave's talking about, maybe like, I'm not sure what your setup is, but maybe pulling it further away from the background a little bit.
That's
like pulling both the figure and the box away from the background so that it's not kind of like pushed up against it.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, and this is just my own personal thing, is I generally like shooting figures from the belly button or down, like in terms of an angle, just because I find doing a slightly upshot makes it look less like a toy and more like an actual figure or a robot or something like that. If you look at some of Dave's photos, like most of them, you're almost looking up at the figure or straight on, whereas on yours it's looking down. So it does emphasize, hey, this is a toy. But if that's not what you're after and you want to make it look more like a figure, not figure, but like more like a character or more like a robot, shooting at a straight on or even an up angle ends up looking just a little bit more kind of more alive, I guess is the best way to say.
Organic.
Yeah, and less like it's something that's on a table.
Right.
I mean, look at the box art, and the box art itself is coming at an angle. The looking up at the robot.
Yeah. Well, T-Man, who I was trying to softly nudge into joining because he loves photography as well. He didn't want to join on camera, but he wants to critique here as a backseat photographer, if that's a thing.
It's just been yelling at
on the
us the whole
front to see
time.
the face, but I think that makes sense. I don't have like one of those kind of directional lights. I have 3 soft boxes, 1 overhead and 2 coming from a kind of like a 30-degree angle from both sides or so. But yeah, I don't have a
cheap LED light desk lamp. That's great. That's actually what I use. Believe it or not, I'm right now currently using 2 LED desk lamps.
I don't know how to send something to the main chat, but I'll put it in the private chat. Like, Henry, that's a link to one of the lights I use. I'm not sure if you can share it with the regular chat. And it's going to be Amazon.ca. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian, so I'm not sure if that'll fuck up when it's going to Amazon.com. But if you take a look at that right there, you can see that comes with that honeycomb thing that goes on the front, and that lets you do directional lighting.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to share that.
I mean, I actually still have the setup for the mummy shot that you did earlier. I still have it if you want to see how that is.
Falconized. Hold on 1 second. There we go. So this is it. So you're saying this. What's the honeycomb thing? This thing?
So the thing at the bottom, if you take a look at
this thing. Oh yeah, the one that looks like a honeycomb. Obviously.
Yeah. So it comes with both those things on the front. So that the front one is a diffuser, and that gives you a diffuse light, and then the one below it basically goes on the front, and that will only let light go in one direction. There's other ways of doing this, which is you have like I'm not sure if this is what you have, Dave, where you have like a metal one that has the doors that you can swing up and out and things like that, but like
you're gonna die when I show you my light
setup. Okay, I'm just throwing out ideas, but like there's many different ways of doing directional light. You can also use something even like a tube from a fucking the thing that has paper on it that you use.
Paper towel holder.
That's the one, like a paper tube from a paper towel roll. So you can use that to get directional light if you want.
Oh, interesting. See, I always think like you have to go like. So see, this is one of the things I'll add to the end, but I didn't want to just edit the slide live. But I mean, these are the types of tools, tips that I was hoping to get out of this and to put on the slide. Maybe I'll have to start sharing these slides with tips and tricks and stuff like that, or post it as an image on the community or my Facebook or something like that. But yeah, I wanted to go through here and we talked about tools like the directional lighting. You said soft boxes. Dave, you talked, about, just styrofoam being a tool for.
I got a couple of tools I want to keep. Is it all right if I jump in on that for a couple?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you do that? I'm gonna
show you. I'm gonna move my camera real quick. I'm gonna show you my setup, and then I'm gonna bring a couple things over.
I want to see what he's gonna make me.
So this is actually for the mummy setup. It's still up there.
Okay.
That's all it was.
See, and that's fantastic.
2 lamps from Walmart.
Yeah.
I got those on closeout because they were pink. And they got the movable necks.
Yeah.
So you got that. Get back here. And again, from Five Below, sorry, I know, bad cameraing. I got this from Five Below. again, LED light bar and LED light strips, all USB. They're actually all made from the same manufacturer. So the remote. Wow! All of a sudden, I look like an awesome.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that.
But
no, I totally meant to cut you off.
Also, we're in this weird vertical thing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But with these, I can. This is how I can do that dynamic lighting because I can place this anywhere.
Yeah.
I can hold these bars anywhere, and this is all stuff I get from Five Below.
there's
the power bank I got from Five Below. So you could actually get yourself an action figure light setup for under $40, and it's all just the positioning.
Yeah. There's absolutely no right way to do it.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to experimentation. I know someone, I think it was T-Man when he was yelling at me earlier, but I think he was saying that how you get better by making mistakes, and like absolutely. I just funnel that into photography and not doing any diorama stuff because
you can do it. Diorama stuff is very easy.
So I also like I live in Toronto and I live in an apartment, and the idea of the smell of paint or anything like that in my small apartment at this point would be pretty like it's not just artistic stuff. I just
that one I don't have a clever answer for.
Yeah, I just don't have the space to do anything creative. Honestly,
no, you could do one of those like what are those called? Those paint boxes that airbrushers use. It's a closed setup, and it has a vacuum that goes out and exhausts. So
yeah, this is already way too much work. I'll leave it to professionals like Dave.
I'm nowhere near.
All right, so I got a couple directional lighting, LED strips from Five Below. What else did we talk about in terms of tools?
The most important tool ever. I know you're talking about iPad versus camera. The one thing cell phone versus camera. Best thing with the camera, tripod.
Oh yeah,
tripod.
Absolutely a tripod for sure.
That is hands down, because that way the camera's never moving. When you're using the aperture on there. I always set my camera on a tripod with a 3 second delay, so that way I can hit the button, and there's no jiggle to it, and then the shot's taken.
Yeah, no, that's I think mine's 2 or 3 seconds as well. I was sad because when I got my new camera, it doesn't use the same remote, because I used to have a remote that I could remote trigger it from, and it didn't work with my new camera that I got a couple of years ago. So now I do have to press the button.
My Canon's got an app for it, but I never use it.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely pressing on a delay, like taking the delayed photo is absolutely on a tripod the best way to go as well.
Yeah. Sure. Don't use flash. Flash is your enemy.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, one of the things that I also think is useful is one of those travel ones, so you can do it on like the travel like octopus hand ones that can wrap.
I've looked at those.
I've never done that. I would think you guys are on the move.
That the thing I have, the light I linked, that's what 2 of those are on. Mostly because I can kind of grab them onto anything when I'm moving around. But then I have also like full tripod for the other light, because I know kind of where it's going to go all the time. But yeah, like I forget what they're called. They're not octopus. It's something else.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Yeah, they got those weird ball things on there. Yeah, they can grip onto anything.
Yeah, but yeah, I find them useful, and because those LED, the LED light that I linked there, because they're so small, they just go. Those work with those, even if they're not.
And one of the things I like about these LED lights from Five Below, they basically have their own diffuser on them.
Yeah, no, that looks great, actually.
Yeah.
Five Below, I assume, is a store in the US.
Yeah, it's like a $5 and below, so it's like a dollar store, but leveled up by 5.
Gotcha.
One of the things I was going to ask about
if you got a Chinatown, you can find these.
So one thing that I found was really helpful when I started filming on my phone is, so I feel like the most default phone apps or camera apps are kind of bunk. It doesn't let you really control things like exposure and ISO and like the what's that term I'm looking for?
There's
Aperture?
shutters.
Yeah,
shutter
yeah,
size,
yeah. Shutter,
speed.
yeah, the shutter
Well, they don't
speed
have
or
a
whatever.
shutter. They
Yeah.
don't have a real shutter. That's the thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
technically, my camera doesn't anymore either.
Like the auto white balance, it's especially with like filming, like being able to lock the autofocus so that it's not like constantly adjusting to my hand while I'm doing it, stuff like that. And I found that those were things that I didn't really know existed as a noob, and they were just kind of like scary, right? In terms of, I was like, oh, I don't know what ISO is, but they're very basic once you get them kind of like tuned into like the basics of what you need to do. And I think that's one thing, right? Don't be afraid to learn a little bit of the jargon in any hobby you do.
And there's a lot of good photography tutorials out there on YouTube, and a lot of stuff carries over to real life too, which is a lot of fun actually.
Yeah. And if you're just starting out, choosing one of them in general, choosing like the aperture is the best way to go. And then like, because you can choose like aperture priority, manual, shutter priority, etc. But just starting out with aperture priority and kind of seeing what happens when you change that aperture and then letting the camera do the work for the most part is a good way to go. Because that way you can see, oh, if I change the aperture to this is what it's going to look like. And the camera has chosen this shutter speed. So you can start seeing the correlation between everything there. Try not to do everything at once, because then that's when it really becomes overwhelming. Like if you only change one variable, then you're fine. But like if you start changing 3 or 4 variables for every photo, it's like, no, that's gonna overwhelm you and get you bummed out real quick.
Yeah, so a couple of other tricks that I pulled from you guys just from discussion was playing around with focal lengths if you have the luxury, and then what you were talking about, Ian, looking at different angles, how shooting something from above gives you a different feel than something from below, and so forth.
Look when you're setting up a pose, and look at it with one eye. Believe it or not, that absolutely, because that's the depth of field. Your camera only has one eye.
Oh yeah,
Pretend you're Shockwave. How would he look at this?
very logically, I would say.
There's a lot, and there's a logic to a picture.
All right. There's probably a lot more. I'll probably have to rewatch. And like I said, I'm gonna have to like capture this and maybe edit it so it's from our extreme photography and post this somewhere, because I want to make sure that we capture a lot of these tips and tricks so people can refer back to them really quickly and easily. And then again, if you guys think of stuff afterwards that I might have missed, let me know, and we can throw some more on there for more folks. But I don't want to take all the time. I do want to end in the next 15 or so minutes because I do have a family trip tomorrow that I got to get up early for. So let's move on to the next segment.
PCR priority,
which we never have a lot of Q&A. I think we had actually quite a bit this time, but I always want to have a Q&A section so we can get some more interactions with the audience. We had some good questions before about what kind of lighting and stuff. So if you have any questions for Ian or Dave, hopefully not me, because again, I'm just a novice, just trying to make things work with what I can. But if you guys have any questions, this is your opportunity to ask it. Let's see here.
I have a question for you, Henry.
Oh no, okay.
Where are you going on vacation?
Going to New York City. My wife wants to take the kids to go see Aladdin. I don't think it's on Broadway. It might be off Broadway. Well, it probably is on Broadway, but she wants to go take them there. She wants to go shopping at Chanel for a bag, which I'm dreading because I know it's going to be thousands of dollars. But I got it for her. I gave her some money for specifically to buy a bag because she'd been asking. So we're going to
I don't feel so bad. My wife wanted a Dale Jr. jacket.
Amazing.
And then we have a bunch of friends over there, and we're pretty foodies, so we want to try to, again, New York is a good foodie town. Honestly, I'd rather go somewhere else, but she wanted to go somewhere quick and easy, not jump on another plane. We were just on a plane to Cancun a couple months ago in February, so she just wanted a quick short trip for the kids' spring break, which is this coming up week. So we're gonna go tomorrow and then come back Tuesday night. So that's
gotta get a slice of street pizza whenever I'm in New York. That's the only thing I got always.
See, I'm more of a street hot dog guy. Like I love
Not a bad thing. Not a bad.
hot dog, New York hot dogs with the spicy onions and some mustard. That's like all I need out of life. Oh, Rusty Mechanic says the one eye tip. My mind is blown. So that was with me too. I didn't even think about that. So let's see what other questions can you. Robot Show Tunes, who's been on the show I think twice. Once the consultation with one of you guys or both of you guys to take a look at his Instagram.
Follow my Instagram, and I will then have your Instagram, and I will take a look at it. I mean, Rusty Showtunes did it. I mean, Rusty Mechanic did, and I'm looking at his.
Oh, there you go. Robot Show Tunes, and his Instagram is already linked in the description below, so no excuses there. Frankly Flawless says, do you have any idea for a shot going in, or do you just let the pose dictate the mood and lighting?
After you, Ian?
I mean, depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing stuff for work, then I know what I'm doing because I know what is being asked of me. If I'm doing it for personal stuff or just for fun, then usually I'm sitting here with the toy at my desk and I'll put it in a pose that I like, and then I'll be like, oh, cool, I want to take a photo of that, and then I'll take it over the light box and do that. It also happens the other way when I'm like, okay, I want to specifically, like, and I'm sure Dave, you've done this as well, where it's like, I want to recreate a specific scene, or I want to do a specific thing with this toy. And so like it's a combination, I guess, of all three of those. Like, at least it is for me. Like, sometimes I'm dictated what I have to take a photo of because, like, these are the photos that they want. But for myself, it's definitely a mix of like, oh, cool, I didn't know this toy could do this pose, or I put it in this pose on my desk and now I want to put it in the lightbox, or I'm like, I want to recreate this specific pose and photo and do it like that. So that's my answer, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it's like when I handle a figure, sometimes I'll get the inspiration. So yes, I will be like, okay, I've got a specific look. On my Instagram, I got a great series using the 1,000 Toys Synthetic Humans. I'm absolutely in love with those figures.
They're great toys.
And I had a specific picture in mind when I took it, and then all of a sudden, yes, some things just got inspired to make more. So it's a kind of, I do sometimes have an idea of where I'm going with, and then sometimes it's just as I'm posing, all of a sudden one thing becomes to another. So. Yeah. If I'm on Robot Chochin says he's been following me. I have to see where he is then.
So for me, the only thing I try to do is at least for Transformers, is at very broad scale. I look at what the character is. If he's a Decepticon, I don't want to put him into like a heroic pose, right? So that's why I didn't want to do I felt like the hip thrust is more heroic looking, so that I always try to have Decepticons look a little bit more like
thugs.
Yeah, thugs, hunched over a bit, especially like a brute, like Skull Cruncher. So I always kind of do that, but in terms of lighting and stuff, I don't change just because that's going to be all kind of universal for me and my thumbnails. But I always try to make it like that, and then where I can, I try to mimic any kind of pose I can out of nostalgia. So basically a lot of my Optimus Prime ones has that key movie jumping over, hand back, Ion Blaster forward, and his knee up. That pose, if I can do it, I love to do it. The one thing that I never do is the superhero pose, because everybody knows who's been on my channel at all is I fucking hate that pose. F you guys for making me do that.
Sorry, Henry.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions right now, so I appreciate it. Appreciate the questions. I think we had a lot of good questions earlier on about the white and black background, how to shoot figures, how to light.
I saw one question asking what our favorite lens was. I will definitely say the 50mm is probably my favorite to work with.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sean McCrum, he got ahead of the game. So I think the nifty 50 is like first person who gets like, when you forget your first like SLR, DSLR, they're always like, it's the first lens you should get besides the kit lens that you get, right?
And absolutely, you need to, and it really is. It's a fun all-purpose lens.
If you're buying your first lens, it's a great way to go. I actually have two 50s here. I've got the nifty 50, like the 1.8, and then I ended up splurging on the 51.4 a couple of years back, just because it's got it doesn't even shower depth of field.
51.4.
Yeah, but the ones I use most right now is a 100mm macro from Canon, and then on the flip side, I'm also using a 35mm from Canon, just because I've got a full frame camera now, so the 35 ends up pulling back a little bit more to be close to what a 50 is on it. The 50 ended up being very different on my crop sensor versus the full frame sensor. So something I really like is the 35, but the 100mm is one that I use probably the most at the moment.
Okay.
So, but they also do. It comes down to what you like. It really comes down to what you're doing. The 100mm is going to make things look flatter, like just because it's flattening the space between the subject and background, whereas the 30 is going to give you way more depth because it's almost acting like a wide angle lens at that point. So
noted.
Yeah.
All right, we have one last question here from Frankie Lawless. Says, do you guys ever feel the pull to go from still pictures to more stop motion video?
No chance in hell.
Nope. Listen, the stop motion people are absolute gods. All right, that is patience, that is technique, that is posing, that is balance, that is editing. I bow down to them.
Yeah,
and it's like consistency, like detail oriented. You gotta make sure.
I can't think that much. The focus stacking stuff is like the closest I would ever get to that, and that's usually 3 to 5 pictures at most. Like sometimes it's like 10 photos to do a photo stack, and even then, by the 10th photo, I'm like, just let's get this fucking done, please. Like the idea of taking hundreds of photos and animating it is insane to me. And like Dave said, hats off. There's no way I could fucking do
Look, my hat is off to them.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's funny because the Rusty Mechanic wanted to join this one to talk about photography, but because he's into stop motion, I said no. We're gonna dedicate a different Chatterday to stop motion because I think it's a whole different beast.
I'm absolutely I will not talk down. I am an absolute utter awe. So yes, stop motion is amazing. They are. Listen, I'm at this tier. Ian's at this tier, and the stop motions are where Henry is right now. If my arm could reach that high.
Just I've seen how it's done, and like my brain just doesn't work like that. Like I can't. And I'm also just a clumsy motherfucker. So like I would get like 3 seconds into the animation, then I'd have knocked over the figure and screwed up the pose and been like, okay, I'm done.
And of course, the last thing you got to keep in mind is, if you notice here, the length of the beard does reflect the skill of the cameraman. So the more beard you got, that Henry is why you're so freaking. I'm sorry, man.
Incorrect. Dave, you're fantastic.
All right,
we do agree Henry is a piece of shit, but like you're fantastic.
Oh, that's harsh. Damn, Ian.
Sorry.
I expect that kind of stuff from Dave, but not from you.
I'm just trying to get in on it. Just throwing some punches.
I'm behaving tonight. This is your show.
I know. All right, well, that's it for Q&A. One segment that we haven't done in quite a while is comment time. I haven't been doing a lot of videos. I haven't been doing getting a lot of comments, but I always appreciate comments, whether it's from my reviews or from the live streams, whether it's live on the chat itself or afterwards. I always appreciate them. I answer almost every one of them, or at least respond to them. So only a couple this time. The first one, they're both from Chomp, which was the live stream we did last night. Lejam One Rock, also
Lejam.
Yeah. Also a MMC Ocular Max person. He does all like the box art, stuff like this, like all this G1 inspired stuff.
Speaking of talent,
how can I join the cool kids?
Lejam is super talented. I've met him at 2 cons, I think, and he's a super nice guy.
Oh yeah. I roomed with him for one of the TF cons. The one, I think it was Canada. He came and we roomed together. So he's a super awesome guy, really hard worker. He does some crazy stuff. He does a lot of CG animation stuff from his French studio. So I'm sure most people have probably seen his work in one way, shape, or form.
I still got to get a commission from him because I just think he does fantastic.
See the guy who did the CGI of the Combaticons?
No, I don't think he did that. No, okay, but he does CG animation, cartoon stuff.
Yeah, he does all the illustration for all the Ocular Max stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So like if you ever seen the
all the box art here,
yeah, like he does all that. I will say go to his Facebook page if you haven't. I think it's Shogo King.
Yeah, Shogo King. Yeah,
his Facebook page.
Oh yeah, we had him on Figure Action. Action.
His art is so good, like just fantastic.
Yeah, and he also does like Instagram, and he'll do like live sketches of how he goes through the process and everything like that, adding highlights and everything. So he's an awesome guy. Definitely love him. But he says, "What the hell is that tape Decepticon pad?" Which I got from Mike Rogers. It's actually 4 coasters that he gifted me, and they're reversible. But I wanted to maybe have some logo in the background to break up the white background, make it a little bit more interesting. I was gonna try to put a Decepticon or Autobot symbol based on what faction they're from, but that didn't go very well. So, but that was his comment. The other comment is from Transfan365. He said, "Is it over? What a croc!" Pun. Yeah. So, since he is a crocodile, and I said, "Ba-dum-bum," and this, I'll give you this one. So, thanks for the comments. I appreciate it. Let's see what are people saying. Rusty Mechanic says, "Park." It's Pake. I know we're Korean and there's a lot of park, but I'm Pake. Hasn't set that episode yet, so we don't have any volunteers. But rest assured, I will make him have me in that episode. And he's talking about the stop motion one. Yeah, I feel like that's a very niche thing. So I hopefully we can get somebody else as well as Rusty Mechanic just to get a couple of perspectives.
There was a great stop motion animator in the early 2000s, Steeljaw. He used to do some amazing work.
Mike Rogers he's the one that sent it to me. There's nothing wrong with the coasters. What's wrong is my execution of putting tape that's super reflective and very gaudy looking. Yeah, so I gotta do something else. ACTG plays. All right. So we're coming to the end of the show. As always, we'd like to sign off with letting you guys know that we're going to have another one in 2 weeks' time. So again, we do the series bi-weekly. We probably should do it weekly. We have more than enough interest in topics, but I would probably just go crazy. I'm so behind every single time. I'm doing slides literally 10 minutes up until 10 minutes before the show starts. Everything. So every bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be the consistent time. The next one we're going to do is wrestling. We're going to be talking about wrestling. And Dave, I pinged you again.
I saw that. I thumbed it up on it. I actually thumbs up on it. Oh, remember, I had to get on Discord, so I got the link to get in here.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we're going to have a couple of guests. I think we're going to have 3 guests next time. So we're going to have wrestling. I don't know. I'm going to focus the topic a bit. Maybe we'll focus on modern era, or maybe growing up, I'm part of the Attitude Era. That was my core wrestling experience. But we can really talk about anything. We can talk about AEW, anything like that. So we'll probably talk it out a bit more in the private Chatterday Discord channel to see which ones we want to focus in on. Again, if you want to be part of the discussion, whether that is to plan or just talk about Transformers, collecting, sales, getting in on the Chatterday private channel to volunteer for any number of topics. Again, we're not just doing collecting topics. We're doing skills, talents. We're doing, cartoons that are not just Transformers or collectibles related. We're doing stop motion at some time in the future. We're doing wrestling. Really anything that, lets you express your fandom of anything. We're willing to talk about that. So if you want to be part of that discussion, please join this Discord. The link is over there, and it should also be in the description below. Join there, and if you want to be part of the Chatterday, just go ahead and ping me once you get on and say that you want to be added to the private Chatterday channel, and you can get in on that discussion and the planning and so forth. That's where you can see what ongoing topics we have, and then volunteer for any of those. And again, all the topics are generated by people that are in that channel, just letting me know what they want to talk about. So I think we still have like another 15 or so topics that we haven't even broached yet, which already have volunteers. And again, you can always keep up to date with me on Facebook or YouTube, obviously. Again, thank you, Dave, True Star Screamer. His Instagram is already linked below. And then Ian, Hard Return. I have his Instagram, but I'll also update it with his Twitter so that you guys have that there. With that, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed this Chatterday. Please give it a thumbs up. Share, subscribe if you like it. That keeps me motivated. Also, just makes me happy when I see we have a lot of views and a lot of thumbs up. With that, I want to hand it over to both of you guys, my special guest, to say some parting words, let everybody know how they can connect up with you, anything else. So, Ian, why don't you go first?
Sure. Honestly, it's been great talking to you again, Henry. And Dave, nice talking to you for the first time.
Pleasure, sir. Pleasure.
Yeah, it's very cool talking to you, and you do some great work. I loved those photos. I'm going to check out your Instagram. Yeah, I mean, I just post shit on Twitter, and honestly, like do some stuff for Ocular Max and Mastermind, and sometimes some other companies. But yeah, like I just enjoy the hobby, so it's been wonderful talking to both of you. So
again, Henry, thanks a lot. Again, this is really awesome. It's always nice not just seeing you at TFCon, you know what I'm saying? You guys can catch, of course, my Instagram at True Star Screamer. My Twitter is just pretty much I'm on there when I'm watching wrestling. Again, at True Star Screamer. And every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at the Figure Action Podcast, which I'm not wearing the shirt for right now. But seriously, though, it was awesome. Ian, I've definitely been a fan of your stuff for quite some time. It was kind of nice putting 2 and 2 together, realizing, oh my God, it's that guy. So,
well, I make the connections happen. You're welcome, Dave. Ian, I'm sorry that he's going to probably be bothering you way more than he really should, but that's the price to pay of celebrity, right?
Oh yeah, super celebrity. No, it's but this, like I said, I do this because I enjoy the hobby and the community it brings. So
yeah,
it's always nice to talk to you.
It's all about the love. Honestly, we love toys. Toys are good.
Yeah. And again, we're just building the community, building that network. Love it around different topics and everything. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Thanks again for my lovely guests, for all the guests who have been part of Chatterdays before and those that will come up in the future. Next 2 weeks and 2 weeks later, we'll be doing wrestling. Again, Dave will be back. We'll have Anthony Brown Jr. back. And who else was coming back? There was somebody else that was coming back. I can't think of right now.
The only thing I know about wrestling is that one of them was on Mandalorian, and she did all right. So.
Oh, yeah.
Sasha Banks.
Was that?
Sasha Banks.
Yeah, Sasha Banks.
Yeah, no, she was very good as a Mandalorian. I enjoyed.
Oh, and the Rusty Mechanic. The Rusty Mechanic's coming. He's coming back in 2 weeks. So he's been complaining. He was like, I haven't been on Chatterday in forever. He literally just missed 1 episode. And so now he just missed the 2nd episode. So he'll be back complaining on the air. So again, thanks to everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you in 2 weeks, if not sooner. And again, thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Peace.
Bye.